A brand new Bendy and the Ink Machine game was just leaked into the public with the developers responding, and it looks insane. Like the video if you're excited, and as a reward, here's a cute picture of Bendy himself. So basically, recently, the Bendy developers on their YouTube channel would drop a video simply titled Bendy in the Silent City prototype footage. Now, this drop was extremely random, and there was no announcement or anything of something new coming out. However, the moment this video dropped, it was almost immediately deleted by the Bendy developers and was wiped off the entire internet. However, in this time, people already seen the video and were able to re-upload it, which showed us a brand new game that is probably going to be coming within the next few years in the Bendy franchise. The trailer starts with some extremely retro piano music before cutting to an almost steampunk looking area with a sign called the Toon Saloon. Then, out of absolutely nowhere, the player just pulls out a full-blown pistol, and based on the hands, we look to be somebody completely new. However, we are then given an objective on the top saying current objective, find the snitch, and a notebook option, some ammo, and presumably also a healing bar right here. Upon them entering the saloon, the player is met by absolute destruction, with blood all over the walls being the only thing in this game that's actually in color, and beer all over the place as if the place had just been attacked only minutes or hours ago. The player shoots some bullets, I guess as a little test, and there's even a piece of writing on the wall that just says, "Screw your stains," which I can only assume is most likely just a placeholder, and they're probably just testing putting text on the walls or something like that. Anyway, the character goes to the back of the area to see some graffiti and also a bomb pickup that they then grab and are given 3 bombs out of nowhere. However, to access these bombs, the player then reaches into a drawing notepad of them and grabs it out of the paper. Afterwards, the footage cuts to an absolutely gorgeous outside area of the Toon Saloon, showing us an extremely detailed outer city area for the game, and also a couple barely animated NPCs hanging around the entrance to the Toon Saloon once again. We see the player go and interact with these characters, showing that they fit the old-timey gangster vibe that we've seen a few times now, with the only color showing once again being red on the lady suit. The footage then cuts to an animation showcase where we could see blood on what could be the player or just some random NPC, where we see them pulling out a gun, going into a fighting stance, and also just simply walking around. Following this, we get a massive showcase of all of the characters who once again look like some old town gangsters wearing suspenders, suits, and of course smoking on some cigars. Once again, none of them have any sort of animation, however, it all looks really cool nonetheless. Next up, we get to actually see a showcase of the gun itself, and horrifically enough, when the gun shoots somebody, it just reveals their skull behind it, which is a gross but also kind of cool way of animating wounds. They then showcase all of the parts of the bodies that can fall off, like the face, the chest, and so on, along with another scene showing the player punching the face off of one of the characters. Before finally, the prototype then ends, cutting to the title name once again being Bendy and the Silent City. So wow, there is an absolute ton to break down here, but first let's start with the game's art style. So clearly we could see that for the most part, this game basically has no colors except for the color red, which is extremely interesting since there is tons of blood all around this little prototype, and it's clear that this is meant to take place sometime way in the past, but also still in a steampunky old town city kind of way. We see pipes and city buildings everywhere, random stuff pumping out every once in a while, and of course there's the seeming antagonist of the game, the NPC gangsters who walk around all suited up. Now, all I could really say about this art style is that it honestly, in my opinion, looks just as good, if not better, than Bendy and the Dark Revival, their most recent release. You could tell it's all far from finalized, so I don't want to say too much in specifics because it's all subject to change. But something people complained about with the original Bendy and even its sequel is that the yellowish atmosphere just ends up rotting your eyes over time. And while they use this to their advantage in Bendy and the Dark Revival, sometimes throwing colors in to pop out like crazy, either way, it definitely got a bit annoying in both games. And this new black and white theming they're going with here could definitely work, especially since we see at least some color throughout it that looks relatively nice. However, by far the standout part of this prototype has got to be the outside city area. We don't get to see too much of it, but in Bendy and the Dark Revival, we got to see some city areas which took the game's graphics to a whole new level. And this one builds off that even more, being centered in an old town industrial city type way, which lets it shine in a new style. Now, I will admit, I wish they showed colors, at least in these areas, to give it more atmosphere, but regardless, I love this new style. Another thing I wanted to point out about this is that while I'm just theorizing, I believe that this is supposed to also take place in the ink machine of some sorts or something. Since for starters, we know this is in the Bendy universe just by the name Bendy in the Silent City, and Bendy in the Dark Revival gives us a look at what the real world and the universe around this ink machine looks like. While contradictory, this new game, while in a slightly different style, is still very much cartoony, especially in these city type areas. We also get to see tons of black stuff all over the people and even on the floor sometimes, including the graffiti, which could possibly be oil or gas or something, hence the steampunk style, but I still think this is probably meant to take place in the ink machine, at least in some way. Now, while it's basically impossible to tell a plot on this prototype since it's literally a prototype, we can make some guesses based on the art style and the objective up top that says to find the snitch, that most likely we are probably playing as one of the gangsters inside of this little steampunk city. And more specifically, we're probably going to be working as one of them, doing different tasks that are currently unspecified, while also stalking down the snitches in question. I tried to look for some sort of clues into maybe something more about the game, but there isn't really much we can see. I mean, if you pause at the right time, you could see this little red sign over here across the city area, suggesting maybe it goes a bit further on, but we literally just cannot tell for now. Comment your theories down below, though. I also can't really find any connections to the Bendy franchise itself outside of the name and the art style, kind of. We don't see any familiar characters. Everyone seems to be relatively unique. But moving on from this prototype video, let's talk about the game itself, Bendy in the Silent City. What's going on with this leak and what happened? Well, like we said, it appears to have been just a complete accident done by the developers where they accidentally ended up setting the video public on YouTube, probably just trying to share it with other people working on the game remotely, but accidentally setting it public for everybody. And the Mealy himself even poked fun at this on Twitter, saying, oops. But he would actually make a full-blown statement on the matter, saying, okay, just to clarify, the deleted footage today was a very early prototype video that I made a while ago that wasn't intended to be seen by the general public. Our focus as a team is currently on other Bendy projects. Also, it was me. I slipped up. Sorry, team. So they confirmed to us that it was an accident. However, they also told us that the game leaked isn't actually their main focus at this current time. So while this prototype is cool, it most likely won't come out for probably years because they are clearly doing something else at the moment. However, on the bright side, this at least confirms to us that more Bendy stuff is going on after Bendy in the Dark Revival, which is something I was very concerned about with the series, since after the long-awaited Dark Revival finally dropped, and nobody really knew what they were going to do with Bendy from there on out. However, they are clearly doing a ton of work behind the scenes just based on this massive prototype that leaked into the public. However, what's interesting about this tweet is that they said that they were focusing on other Bendy projects. So potentially there could be another game or something dropping before this new city game even ends up being released. But with that being said, what could this new project they're talking about be? Well, it could always just be a new game or new spin-off or something like Boris and the Dark Survival. I'm not exactly sure. But to be honest, if I had to guess, I think it's probably got to be a Bendy in the Dark Revival DLC or something like that. It just seems too convenient with the massive success of the game to expand upon it in some way, especially since that game, while linear in its structure, could go so much further with the abilities and other things given to us that I would love to see expanded upon in something new. I don't really have any proof for this theory. It just seems like the most likely option, especially since they've already shown interest in continuing Bendy's story as a franchise beyond this. But I guess we will wait and see. Let me know your thoughts down below, subscribe, and peace.